The subscribers are restless. I must consult with my YouTube manager. Freddy, what do I do?
Why don't you do a video about how you started your business?
But that's already been suggested in the comments.
No, do it outside, you
Oh.
Freddy, you think this is gonna work?
Of course it will.
You sure?
Shut the up and talk.
So, anyway, we're here outside. I don't normally film outside very much because my neighbors have a house being built, and so it's usually really loud out here. Freddy, could you turn the camera, show the viewers? Turn the camera, show the viewers the house. All of this. By the way, my dog happens to be my parents' dog. I'm just looking after him today. Now, first of all, I want to thank Tony Glenn for getting on Skype with me a couple days ago. He's a YouTuber who also talks about the Mavic Pro and about music and about North Carolina and about all these great topics. And we had a great question and answer session on Skype, and he's going to be posting that on his channel pretty soon, so look him up. And so we talked a little bit about this whole process, about how I started my business, but I'm gonna go a little bit into greater detail here and maybe kind of go back a little bit more in terms of my mental process, my mental state at the time. Back in 2006 or 2007 was when I first became interested in like computer graphics and the things that you see in movies, Star Wars in particular. I was really interested in how they make the lightsabers for the movie, the computer generated effect, all the spaceships and everything. It just really caught my interest. So back then I thought I was going to be more of a computer graphics student or something like that. But there was nothing really around my area that was like that. I didn't really know if that was really for me, but I knew I liked video in general. So I ended up going to UNC Pembroke, which was about 45 minutes from where I lived in Aberdeen, and they had a broadcasting track. So we're talking more live television, news, stuff like that, talk shows. And so at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I decided to go into that particular education route. So at the time, I was working at a grocery store called the Fresh Market, and there's a Fresh Market in Southern Pines, and I had worked there all the way through my last couple of years in high school, all the way through college on the weekends and during breaks, and then was still working there after I graduated. And so that was kind of paying the bills and everything, but I was still looking for actual employment within my field. After applying to maybe 50 or 60 different places around North Carolina, news stations, production facilities, anything that might involve a videographer or a need for a videographer. Didn't hear back from any of them, and started just continuing to work full-time at the Fresh Market. And for a while there, that was okay because I was still having fun with friends. I was the oldest of my particular group of friends, and so they were all still in college. So I didn't really feel like I needed to grow up that quickly because I was still in the hangout mode. I still wanted to have friends. I still wanted to, have fun late at night and on the weekends with everybody. And eventually I had saved up enough money to buy a camera, the AG HMC 150 by Panasonic. And that was my first real good camera that I could use to start maybe advertising myself just as a freelancer, If there's a wedding or if there's a simple production that is taking place, if you need a little promotion for your business, I'm your guy. And it's around this time that I actually rekindled my old friendship with Dart McAdoo. He actually owned his own videography company as well. And he kind of took me under his wing, and I did my first couple wedding shoots and the first couple production shoots basically for free, just as experience. I would kind of go with him and do some things as a second shooter, and he kind of showed me the ropes on how to shoot a wedding well. So I kind of attribute some of my early development to him and how he kind of helped me out. Also, buying the camera and making a website and starting to advertise myself, putting a decal on my car, advertising my video services. I also have to attribute some of my early opportunities to Moore Buddies and the Moore County Chamber of Commerce. And those were two different organizations that kind of threw some projects my way in order for me to get a demo reel, for me to kind of put some stuff together and show paying clients later on down the road. Without those organizations throwing some work my way, I really didn't have anything to show it other than some nice nature films that I had shot and a couple creative projects from college. So I think the big thing there was just being able to do free work, being willing to do the free work, and then also having the initiative to make the website edit the demo reel, pay for a phone book listing and a car decal, and get my Facebook up to par. And that all together kind of spurred on a little bit of success there in 2011 and 12. Helped me feel good because I was doing something beyond the grocery store. I was doing something with the information that I learned, but at the same time, I wasn't committing to a real job, a real company, corporation, working for someone else. I was still working for myself in the creative aspect, and I liked that. I liked the control. I didn't want to feel like I had to work 40 hours a week being creative for somebody else or someone else's end goal or something. It was also a way that I could kind of show my parents that yes, I was doing something with my life, because at the time I was still living with them. Eventually I moved out of their house and into a house with a friend who I lived for maybe 17 months with. And there I could really start to do more with videography, but I was also doing more with acting. I realized at that point that I really wanted to do something in front of the camera too. There was not only the creative aspect and the creative desire behind the camera, there was a creative desire to be in front of it as well and to kind of have some exposure in that respect. So I started to do a lot of acting at that point. I may have let videography kind of slip for the next year or so. In 2013, I had moved to Charlotte to get nearer to the film production and the acting scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I actually had a lot of fun there, but the issue was I was still working at the fresh market. There's a fresh market in Charlotte as well, and so I just simply transferred. And I was starting to let the videography go because I was really trying to focus on acting. I thought if I focused on just acting, eventually I'd be able to pay the bills and I would be able to quit the grocery store. And so at that point, I was actually declining videography jobs. People would call me for weddings and stuff, and I would say, well, I'm not pursuing that at this time. Sorry, here's some numbers to some other colleagues I know. I guess looking back, I kind of wish I had taken those gigs, because then I could have maybe worked part-time at the grocery store in Charlotte. But instead, I decided, okay, I'm just going to focus on two things: the fresh market, full-time, and acting. And going by that strategy, I started to watch my bank account slowly dwindle, and each month I was losing money. I just wasn't making enough to make ends meet. And my job at the fresh market was physically taxing, plus it was a 5 to 2 shift, 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I was usually very tired when I got home, and then it just didn't really work out that well. Around that time, I saw that my alma mater, UNC Pembroke, was posting a position for videographer for the university, marketing videographer. They actually called it the Broadcast and Emerging Media Specialist. And I thought, what? Now this is exactly what I could do. I knew I could get it. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that if I applied, I would be seriously considered, because I had gone to school there, and also I still had contacts because it was only a couple years after I graduated. Plus I had the experience of owning my own business, and I had a pretty good demo reel by then. So I thought, well, if I apply for this, there's a good chance I could get it. And sure enough, I did. So November 4th, 2013 was my first day back at my alma mater, UNC Pembroke, working with their marketing team as a videographer. And at first it was relatively exciting. I found a really cool house for very cheap, because it's a very cheap, low cost of living there. So I was paying $650 a month for a house all by myself. The only thing is, it was at the end of the dirt road in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone signal and no internet access and that sort of thing. So there were definitely pros and cons, but the job was good, and people enjoyed my work, and I enjoyed working with them, and it was a good experience. And I remember my first couple of days, I was very concerned about staying there too long, because when you first start a job like that, especially with the state university, it can be a little overwhelming when they're starting to talk about, okay, 10 years from now, you'll be this much vested in your retirement fund, and by 20 years, you'll be fully vested, and, in 15 years, this happens, and then, when you turn 65, this happens, and I was just like, I'm 24 years old. I don't know. Like, this whole talk about 20 years from now is scaring me. I didn't want to be at UNC Pembroke when I'm 45 or 50 or something. And so that, I think, was a little bit of a shock to me, because I was nervous to get sucked in, You know, a lot of people get sucked in, you know. I mean, it's happened to a lot of people where they think, well, I'm only gonna be here a couple years and move on to my goal, my dream. And so that's why I never let my freelance business, Sandhills Videography, slip away. I always had it as supplemental income and things I could do during the summer when the university wasn't so busy. I think UNC Pembroke also gave me the confidence to pursue my business full-time with a lot more energy and direction. Because I had worked with other people, I had learned a lot more about marketing and learned a lot more about video production and what people expected, especially how to work quickly, how to churn things out quickly, because when you're the only videographer of an entire university, you're working on 8, 9, 10 different things at once. And you gotta learn how to juggle that stuff. And you need to learn how to manage many different deadlines and how to prioritize as well. Plus, you need to learn how to communicate. And in a university situation, when there's maybe 1,000 employees working there for years on end, you're going to work with almost every single one of them eventually. You're going to need to learn how to coexist. You need to learn how to speak with people who don't really know as much as you do about a certain topic, and not talk down to them, but rather talk at their level, and learn how to talk to various groups of people in order to make sure that your point is coming across, instead of just talking in technical jargon that only you're going to understand, and no point in doing that. Now, the beauty of working at a university meant that I made a lot of contacts there, and a lot of people who realized, oh, you do work on the side? Oh, well, I have a wedding coming up, or my daughter's, has a party coming up, or, can you film this for the Chamber of Commerce here? And very, very easy to network and to make contacts that way. So I ended up realizing about a year ago that I could probably end up quitting the university job and working full-time as Sandhills Videography, my video business. So having my ducks in a row and kind of going through the process of quitting, correctly, making sure you don't burn bridges, and making sure that you're doing it when you have a little bit of cushion in the bank and you know exactly what you're going to be doing. You have a bit of a future planned out. And there's actually a video on YouTube back I made maybe 10 months ago when I talked about the process of how I quit the job. And that's how I kind of made the leap to work for myself and to not have to clock in and to work a solid 40 hours for a salary that's fixed each month. It was actually a pretty cool experience. It was a little bit scary, and I'm not going to lie, it's still a little scary because, at times certain months are better than others, and you feel like, okay, one month I made a ton of money, and I think, wow, all of a sudden, multiply that by 12, and I'm making, huge bank, this, as a yearly amount. But then you have a really slow month the following month, and you realize, wow, it's evening out to something that's pretty normal, or even a little slightly less than what you were hoping. But the beauty of that is that you can hustle and you can actually work harder and see the effects of your harder work. Now, a big thing about when I started my business was getting all my equipment lined up. And so it took years to get to the point where I felt like I didn't really need something else for shoots. Before I was kind of squeaking by with certain things. My tripod wasn't the best, or my secondary camera was just okay, or people would comment that I needed this or that. Now it feels like I actually have some equipment that I can use that I'm proud of, and that's translated well to YouTube as well. What I do on YouTube, I'm using the same equipment, and I consider YouTube a business as well. YouTube is not all fun and games for me, even though I try and keep it light most of the time. But I consider it just as much a business as Sandhills Videography, which is my freelance business. And I use the equipment to look professional and to come across professional. And I partner with companies. Companies don't sponsor me, but I do partner with them to get commission off the sale of the products that I review, as long as people click through my video description links. So I guess that's kind of the extension of my business. Now, for those of you who don't know, Sandhills Videography, my freelance production business, actually has a YouTube channel. And it has over 1,000 subscribers, but it actually has, until yesterday, or maybe until 2 days ago, more views than my entire Ed Ricker Vlogs channel. And that's solely because of one video, the Lamborghini video. and that's probably my most successful video on my YouTube channel. There have been some other productions where I think it may have gained a little more traction or viewership, but that one has the most views that I can actually kind of count and keep track of. So it's well over 400,000 views, so it's my most viewed video ever on YouTube of any channel I own. And so it's pretty cool. It's actually a byproduct of another video. I had shot a video with Ezra Dyer, who was then working for Yahoo Autos, and he had the Lamborghini Aventador, I think the 2016 model, and the Super Veloce. And we did a little video review of it because, you know, that's what he does for Yahoo Autos. Well, even though Yahoo Autos doesn't exist anymore, at the time that Lamborghini video was posted on there, and he had the Lamborghini for a couple more days, and we were just driving this Lamborghini through town, and this guy stops and says that he has a mobile vehicle cleaning business, this detailing business. Can he detail the Lamborghini for free if I film him do it? And I said, that's cool. And Ezra said, that's cool. And so we met up on a Sunday and shot the video in about 2 hours. And that's the most viewed video on my YouTube. So it's funny how things that, you know, just kind of happen by chance end up being really substantial for you. And that's not only for videos and stuff, that's also for networking. I think the most important thing that I've learned from owning a business, and especially a business like this, is not to judge books by their cover. And the whole thing there is, well, don't get swindled by somebody, but rather there are a lot of people that I've met years ago who I originally thought I didn't like, or who I thought maybe weren't the brightest crayons in the box, or people who annoyed me, or people that I just wasn't going to give the time of day because I read them wrong, and then realized years later or months later that they could have a positive impact on my life or a positive influence on my life, and vice versa. Whether they hired me or they called me up for some reason, or I was able to help them or they were able to help me. And I look back and I thought, wow, if I had actually knee-jerk reacted the way I wanted to back then, this particular situation, this positive thing happening right now would have never happened. I can trace the dots backward. And I think that's a really important part of what I've learned as a business owner. The people that you come into contact with on a daily basis, especially in a smaller community, maybe not like a huge city, but maybe a smaller community, you really realize that each person will eventually matter and that you will cross paths again. And what you say today may come back to bite you tomorrow. So anyway, I hope you guys get something out of this. I hope it's not just me rambling, but I did want to talk about it, and I thought it's time for another story time. I don't usually just sit and talk like this for so long about me. So I do appreciate you maybe making it to the end if you're actually watching this. And keep an eye out for Tony's video, because we had a great conversation just the other day. He's going to be posting it soon. Tony Glenn of North Carolina. Anyway, as always, subscribe if you like the video. Visit edricker.com to check out some of the products I use on a daily basis for videography and for drone work. And until next time, happy shooting.
How'd I do, Freddie? How'd I do? Woo! Oh.